Hi, this is Carrie again, and I am going to be speaking in this video. This is a continuation of what I was speaking about in the last one regarding life in the real world. Only this time I'm going to talk about life in the perceived real world. Meaning the one that I was talking about in the last video was the natural world, the world that was made not by human hands, but this time I want to talk about the world that has been built by human hands. Those are my chickens, my roosters, excuse me. And I'm referring to, I call it the mainstream way of doing things. All right, there's a system in place, and this is what I refer to as the system when I talk about the mainstream way of doing things, and that has been put together by human hands, and it is a multifaceted system, and it is interconnected, and it's vast in scope. But essentially, it is what man has done to live with their fellow man in the natural world, because that's where we all live, is in a natural world, but what we've done to continue life, and we have established systems. So let me just touch on the various facets of this system. We have a government system in how we govern our own affairs. We as individuals, we have, we live our life, but then we're not on an island somewhere. We're living with other people. And so how do we govern our affairs locally with the people that are right around us? And then on a higher level in this country, in America, we have a multi-level system of governing, the local level, the state level, and the federal level. So there's a system that was put in place hundreds of years ago, and it's still in place, but it's changed over time, but I'll get into that in a minute. But so there's a governing aspect of the system. Education is another aspect of the system. What do we teach our children? What did we learn? How did we learn growing up? What are the kinds of things that are necessary for learning how to live in the real world? How do you become a productive member of society? Who educates you, and how do they educate you, and what do they educate you with? There's an educational system in place. And you have an economy where people are exchanging goods and services with one another, and there's a monetary system put in place so you have an equal, if you want to buy lemons from somebody and you've got apples, how do you get those lemons from somebody? And maybe you don't have apples, maybe you have a cow and you really want lemons. How do you need a means of exchange? And so they came up with a system, a monetary system, long time ago, and again, that has evolved over time, but there is a system in place of economy. And then there's banking. You have a place you may save up the money that you've accumulated somehow, and you put it somewhere with the idea that maybe you can earn interest. If you let someone hold on to your money for a while, you can earn interest. Say you need money for something that you want to acquire and you don't quite have enough, and you might be able to borrow money from a bank, a loan officer, and they will charge you interest more than likely, and you promise to pay them back. So there's a banking system in place. Food system. Not everybody can grow everything that they eat. So there have been systems put in place to, like a marketplace, a grocery store type thing. And then you've got certain foods that grow in certain areas of the country or certain areas of the world that they don't grow in your country, and you have a way of, the system has been put in place for you to be able to eat avocados in the middle of Virginia, as an example. There's housing systems put in place for you to have a place. You can buy a house that's already made. You can rent an apartment. You can rent a room in somebody's house. You can different options for shelter that are available that you can tap into. So there's a housing system, and I'm not going to expound on every single one of these, but there's an entertainment industry, there's a medical industry, health and wellness, the system set in place for when you're sick and you don't know what to do, you're exhibiting symptoms and you don't know how to remedy it, you go to somebody who does, and they will charge you something for their services, and you do the treatment that they suggest and you can get better. I mean, that's the whole idea. There's a system that was set in place to handle that, and you have safety and security, you have peacekeepers when you have a dispute with somebody, there's a system in how to handle that. There's emergency services if there's a problem that breaks out, that there's an emergency, somebody gets sick, somebody falls and they need to get to a medical facility and you don't have the means to get them there, you can call a number and someone can come and carry you there in an ambulance. Or if there's a fire that breaks out and you don't have the means, it's out of your control and you can't put it out by yourself, you can there's a system in place to contact a fire department that will come and help you put the fire out. So that's a system. Then you've got a transportation system where in our country we've got massive infrastructure by way of roads and transportation, a way of getting from point A to point B, and we can go great distances, and there's multiple methods or means of transportation. And you've got waste management. We have a system in place for when you have excrement. You eat your food, and when you're done eating and you have to flush your system out, where does that go? And we kind of get accustomed to, you just go to the bathroom and you flush the handle and it just goes away. But there's actually a system in place to handle that. It doesn't just like disappear, it goes somewhere. And the same with trash. We have consumables, and once you maybe you consume something that you're eating, the package that it came in, you got to put the package somewhere. You don't eat the package too a lot of times, so you throw it in the trash. Well, there's a system in place to manage all of that. Water, there's a system in place for you to get water. You don't just turn the faucet on and it automatically just appears out of nowhere. It came from somewhere, and the system was developed to get water from the ground, likely, into your kitchen or bathroom or whatnot. There's a religious system. Not everybody participates in it, but I would say a vast majority of people participate in some kind of religious system that tells them, gives them an opportunity to serve in some capacity, whether it's or to be taught about their religion. There's a system in place for religious practice. And then there's industry, all sorts of things out there, people who make things. Like I mentioned in the previous video, you can have a builder. Well, you can make a whole industry out of that, and you can hire people or get people to help you to build furniture or build housing or build building structures or whatnot. And that's just one area, but there's all different industry that there's systems in place to become employed in these different industries. And then there's taxation, there's tax collectors, people that they don't necessarily make anything to earn money, they collect a portion of what other people have to provide services for them. Like, for example, a toll road. You might take a particular road, and in order to pay for the maintenance of that road, you pay a toll. Well, there's a system. That's a system that's been put in place to cover that expense. There's income tax, there's sales tax, there's gas tax, there's all sorts of taxation, a system in place to fund certain services. And then there's recreation, there's justice, there's a legal system. Again, if you have a problem with your neighbor and you can't figure out how to make it work, and you decide you need to go to a higher authority to make a judgment call, and maybe you don't feel comfortable standing before a judge yourself, you can hire somebody to represent you in a court of law, and they act on your behalf. So there's a whole legal system and a whole justice system in place. And then you've got military system. You got people that enlist in armed forces. The idea is to protect you from invasion. If somebody is coming in to attack you and you don't have the means to fend them off by yourself, maybe they're coming in mass and there's just you and your neighbors, and you need help. And so there's a system put in place to protect you and to defend you. So anyway, all these things, this is all man-made. This is all orchestrated by humans. It started a long time ago, and has been built upon and modified over time. And we have today a mainstream way of doing things in life, how we live our life. And this is the system. Now, the problem is that this system, the problem that I see is that this system is has gotten to a point where there are powers that be that reign in this system, that rule, that are dominant. And that's why they're powers that be. They are the ones that are in control. At one time, systems were set up to where the individuals had power. For example, government. The idea was the governed are, you give permissions to someone else to handle certain affairs. And maybe you don't have the time to devote all of your energy to governing certain things. So you select people from among your community to represent you, and they go and they devote all of their time and energy to represent you. And if the idea is that they represent you, and you tell them this is what you want, and your neighbors, you all get together and you tell, okay, this is what we want. We'll have you represent us, and when you start doing things that we don't want, we're going to tell you we don't want that, and you're going to change, or we're going to vote you out and get somebody else in who will do what we want. And so that's how it was made to be at one point. But now it's gotten to a point where the people don't have as much power as they once had. You elect somebody into an office and you tell them this is what we want you to do, and now they have other people that say, no, this is what we want you to do. And your representative is getting different messages from different people, and the idea of, well, we'll vote you out if you don't do what we say, the representative's going to weigh his options. Well, this is what they want, this is what they want. And then someone comes along and says, this is what we want, and we'll make sure that you stay in office. So if, even if what we want isn't what everybody else wants, we'll make sure that they may try to vote you out, but we'll make sure that you stay in. And then all of a sudden, the system got corrupted, and now representatives are not representing the people, they're representing those who can pay to keep them in office. And now you have lobbyists, you have people that are fighting for corporations that are saying, no, we want you to, do this or do that. And so anyway, the point is that the individual has lost control over various systems, because there have been people of power that have risen to the top and that are in control of those systems. And now it has gotten so, in my opinion, so out of control that they're going to do what they're going to do. The powers that be are so powerful, and we who are members of the system or participants of the system are so powerless, that as individuals, and even if we get together with other, there are other powerful organizations that we can't compete with, that the powers that be are going to do what they're going to do, and their agenda has changed, or maybe it hasn't changed. The people that are in power have a different agenda than the majority of the people that operate within the system, and it's a problem. It's a huge, huge problem. Another problem with the system that I see is there's no universal moral code. It used to be that everybody kind of agreed on certain aspects of morality. Everybody had an appreciation for life and the life of those, of the innocent. For example, let's say abortion. That's a raging topic, has been for years. People have different ideas of what is right and what is wrong, and it's not universal across the system. It's people are able to do what they want to do. Some people think that it's okay to, nowadays you've got mercy killing, euthanasia, people who determine, which life is more valuable than another life, and it's evolved, and not everybody is on board with the same idea. So this is what I mean by there's no universal moral code. It's not like everybody agrees on the same way of living. So that's a problem in the system. And let's see, the powers that be, they have a different agenda. I believe that for the most part, they are more interested in profiting off of the people than being profitable for the people, providing a benefit for what's truly best for mankind. That is not their concern, the powers that be. A lot of them, their concern is about themselves and what's best for their people, not necessarily for the general population. Another problem with the system, it's enslaving and oppressive. There's rules that have been put in play that you have to abide by these rules, and if you don't, there's penalties, and so it becomes very enslaving and oppressive, controlling and manipulative. The powers that be, they want what they want, and they use what's at their disposal to manipulate and to control the masses. There's social engineering going on in the system. There's a discouragement for people to take personal responsibility. Why? The system will take care of you. You don't need to worry about that. We'll take care of that. You need to you want to buy something you can't afford? That's okay. We'll, come on over to the bankers and we'll find a loan officer that will loan you some money in exchange for signing your life away. Or it allows you to, you don't have to worry about it, we'll take care of it. But it will cost you. But it'll be, it'll be enjoyable. You'll get to be with your friends. You'll get to, you'll get to do the things that other people are doing if you participate in our system. We will provide for you as long as you do such and such. And after a while, you become dependent on the system, and you don't bother taking personal responsibility for things. You expect someone else to take care of you. Instead of being concerned with how you're going to feed yourself, you turn to your employer and say, you need to provide me with a paycheck so that I can feed my children. And it's like, it's not their job to provide you with money to, if you work out an agreement with them and you provide a service and they agree to that and they provide you money in compensation, okay, but if they don't, you don't get to demand, I need more money so that I can live. It's like, well, find another job. We start to lose an understanding of who's really responsible for taking care of us. We're responsible for taking care of us. It's not other people's jobs to provide a roof over our head and provide food on our table and clothes on our back. That's not other people's responsibility. That's our responsibility to do that for ourselves. But the system kind of removes that from you because they say, oh, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. You just have to do this, this, and this, but you'll have support and we'll show you how to do it, and and then we'll take care of you. It discourages free thought. You don't have to think about how to do. We already have a system for that. You don't have to come up with any innovative ways. We have plenty of ways to do it right now. You just pick which one you want to use. And it kind of discourages free thought. It dumbs down the population. It degrades critical thinking. You don't have to think. You just choose. You just pick this one or that one. You go to school. You don't ask questions. They tell you what to think. They tell you what the answers are. These are the answers. Learn these answers, and then when I give you the test, you need to spit back these answers. They don't provide you an environment with, here's a problem, how are you going to solve it? Now, they may have some of that problem solving a little bit here and there available in their educational curriculum, but for the most part, a lot of it is, this is the way it is, and these are the answers. Learn these answers to the questions, and then I'm going to ask you the questions. Now you give me the answers that I told you to supply. Critical thinking just kind of goes out the window. It's just, well, but it doesn't seem to, no. This is the answer. I'm going to ask you this question. You give me this answer, and, that's how it is. No questions. No other questions outside of this realm. And it kind of dumbs you down to where, okay, well, I guess that's the way it is. They said that's how it is. This is the way it is. Then that's the way it is. And you turn on the media, you turn on the news, and they tell you what's happening in the world today, and you just kind of take for granted that they're telling you the truth and that they know better than you do, and you kind of just take it all in. So this whole system, it degrades your critical thinking skills. It doesn't allow you opportunity to think for yourself and pursue those ideas any further, because it's confining. It's like, no, this is the message that we want to communicate, and this is what we're going to communicate. All this, you're just rocking the boat, asking questions. Don't ask questions. This is the way it's supposed to be. The system, these are problems that I see, major problems in the system. There's a lack of justice and accountability. Like I said, the powers that be are going to do what they're going to do. And if they're not just, if they're immoral, or doing something that is just not fair and equitable, who's going to stop them? They're in control. They're going to do what they're going to do, and that's a problem. And then last but not least on my list here anyway, is a major problem of the system is that it's killing us. It's destroying us mentally, physically, and spiritually. It's killing us. The food that we get in the food system, it's not real food. It's not coming from the natural world. Much of it is processed. Much of it has been mixed together in a petri dish somewhere. There's no nutritional value in it. It's physically destroying us. The medical system that is supposed to be helping us, is a lot of it is backed by big pharma or backed by corporations that are trying to sell something, and the medical industry has been compromised in many different ways. And there's regulations on what physicians can do. And I mean, just as an example, it's so oppressive and so controlling. It's so out of control as far as the consumer is concerned, that they're doing whatever they want to do for profit or whatever power, whatever reason that they're doing it. It's not for our benefit. And ultimately, it leads to our destruction and death. And it's doing it to our families. It's tearing families apart. The system causes, instead of parents raising their own children, children are farmed out to institutions where other people are raising them, but they're raising them with curriculum that the parents don't get to decide. It's the state decides. And maybe you send them to a private school, there's still state regulations as to what your child is going to learn. And you may not want your child to learn that, but in order for them to graduate, to go to the next level, they have to learn this, and they have to answer the questions the way the textbooks tell them that they're supposed to answer them. And so the parents may be trying to, okay, well, this is what they're teaching in school, but at home, I want you to understand this is how we operate. But they're getting mixed messages, and now families are being torn apart. You have other authority figures that your children are turning to for guidance and help, and maybe these other authority figures don't share the same values that you do. And now, like I said, the families are being torn apart, either through the educational system, through entertainment, watching TV, commercials, the marketing that's being targeted to children. Never mind what your parents think. We're going right to you, and we're telling you, you want this. This is really what's good for you. This will make you happy. This will make you popular. This will whatever. And it's a combination of all these things together. It's destroying the family unit. It's destroying the natural order of things. It's destroying the food that's out there. They're genetically modified for profit. They want, okay, we're going to take this ingredient out of our product because people have gotten wind that this is a bad ingredient. So we'll take that ingredient out, but we're going to slip another ingredient in there, because we want people, because if we take this ingredient out, it doesn't taste as good. We want it to taste good, so we're going to put another ingredient. It's a mess. It's a mess, and it's in all the different facets that I was talking about. It's a mess, and the ultimate aim, it's pointing to death and destruction, and that's the problem, and that's the world that most people operate in, fully operate in it. And there are people that are trying to come out of it, and they come out of certain aspects of it, but all the other aspects have their hooks in them, and it's like you can't get out, and it's frustrating, it's discouraging, it's disheartening, and it causes you to lose hope for a better way. When you start realizing how much control they have, the powers that be in this system, how little control we have as individuals in their system, it's depressing and discouraging, and we're divided, and it's really messed with the natural world and the natural order of things, and it's a problem. And I know for me, for many years, I thought that I could fix a lot of the problems in the system. I had different causes that I would go after to fix, and I would go all in. And like, for example, I became politically active at one point, and I was all in, and I was active at every level. I was active at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level. I campaigned for for a presidential election. I campaigned on a state level. I got out the vote. I was on the news. I was on the radio. I was in the newspaper. I was involved, like very much involved, and very active. And at the end of the day, the powers that be are going to do what the powers that be are going to do. And that's what I came to realize. And I realized how powerless I was in that system, and that, I can't fix the system in the system. And what I've come to learn is that the only way to win, to beat the system, is to come out of the system and to stop living in the perceived real world and get back to living in the real natural world, the one that we've all been given and blessed to be a part of, and learn how to live in that and succeed in that. But I got to tell you, it is hard. It is hard because most people are so entrenched in the system, and many people are discouraged. They like the idea of coming out. They like the idea of living in the country and eating real food and having freedom and being with their family and seeing their grandchildren grow up. They like all those ideas. But the fact of the matter is, the way things are, they can't do it. They can't do it all. It's too much. It's too much to overcome. For any one person to overcome it all, it's just too much. And as much as I and my family, we've been trying to come out of it for years now, and we're still working at it, we're alone. And this is a big reason why I'm even doing this video, and I'm realizing, oh my goodness, 30 minutes already. I'm going to wrap this up. The biggest reason why I'm doing these videos is I'm trying to find other people who recognize and appreciate the real world that we live in, the natural world, and the natural environment, the natural order to things, and the natural law, that just keeping it simple and learning how to live in peace and to prosper and be in good health with those around us. I want to find those people because I need people like that to surround myself and my family with so that we can work together, because we can't do it by ourselves. And the system is just so overwhelming, and we have to be strategic in coming out of it. And we are. We have come out of it in many ways, but we're alone, and we can't function alone. We're made to be in community with other people. So that's what I'm looking for. Excuse me. I'm looking for people who value the real world, the natural world, who value life and appreciate it, and who want to live in that world so badly that they are fighting tooth and nail to come out of the system, that they recognize that you can't beat the system in the system. You can't change the system in the system. The only way that it's going to be better is to come out of the system and learn how to live outside the system and not do it by yourself. Find other people that are doing it too. Find people like me and my family that are doing it too, and that have that desire, that care about life and about not just ourselves, but we care about the next generation and the generation after that. And we care not about just our own house, but we care about the environment that's all around us. We care about what goes on in the natural world, that benefits everybody, not just our own. So I need to find people like that. I need to find people like that. If you're like that, please comment below and introduce yourself to me. Just say, hi, you're not alone. I feel that way too. If there's anything that resonated in this video or the previous one that really stuck out to you, share it with me. Tell me about it. Because honestly, I don't know anybody. I certainly don't know anybody locally that feels the way I do, passionately, and that is actually doing something about it outside the system. That is really honestly coming out of the system in all areas. Because really, if you don't come out of all of it, you're still in it. And I know it's not an overnight thing. I know we may not achieve it all in one generation, but I believe it is achievable. If we do what we can to come out of it, we find ourselves or find others who feel the same way, and we support one another, and we raise up the next generation, teaching them how to live outside the system in the real natural world. That's what we need. We need people who know how to live outside the system in the natural world, and we can make things better. um, for us and for the future, and we can turn things around. At least for our own families, we can turn it around. But we need each other. So anyway, thank you so much for listening and watching, and I hope that what I've said has struck a chord with you in some way, and that I've been able to offer you some bit of hope that that things can be better, and that you're not alone if you are thinking the way I'm thinking. You're not alone. I think that way too, and let's live life in the real world, not just in the perceived real world, the real world, and live well. And thank you. See you next time.